How to make your house a home. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. I think this is a topic that people have a lot of different opinions on, and it's something I think that can be achieved quite easily if you've moved into a new space, or if you've been even living in the same home or apartment or wherever you live for a number of years and you are looking to sort of revamp it, redo it, and make it feel a little bit more homey. Then that is something we're going to talk about in this video. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is to swap out those white LED bulbs that you have in your home, if you do. I think you can recognize them when you walk into hospitals or anywhere clinical, like even, like a dentist or something like that. They have that really stark white lighting, which obviously serves a purpose in that environment, but when it comes to your home, you want to have really warm, yellow, glowy sort of lighting. So swap out those bulbs for warm white bulbs and consider buying some candles. They don't have to be anything fancy, anything expensive. Literally just go down to your $2 store and grab some beeswax candles, unscented candles, and pop a few in your home, light them up at night, and see how they transform your space. That is something that I can't stress enough, the importance of lighting, which is something that goes so often unnoticed when people are considering their home. They just put in like a million downlights, and it really is something that needs to be thought about and considered in your home if you're wanting to make it feel a little bit more warm and inviting. There is nothing more beautiful than natural light. Obviously, we need to have artificial light to make our homes functional and livable, but when I walk into people's homes and the blinds are shut, the windows are closed, and they've just got stark lighting, I think, why? Like, why do people do that? Like, natural light is so calming and soothing. Definitely something that you should try to have in your space as much as possible. If you're moving to a new home, make sure you consider when looking at an apartment or a house, how much natural light does it get? What orientation is the building in that it's going to allow you to get the best light? So for example, my apartment is northeast facing, so it gets really beautiful morning light, and yeah, it can really enhance the space. Lastly, with lighting, I do want to say, please try not to overlight your home. I know it can be very tempting when designing a home or putting things together in your space to want to have a lot of light, a lot of artificial light, but often that can kind of counteract the feeling that you want to create with your lighting. So I would say consider how much light you're putting into each room, and ask yourself if you really do need to have 5 downlights, or if you could have, a combination of maybe 2 wall lights and some lamps. The whole downlight concept of needing to have lights in the ceiling as your main source is a little bit outdated. I would definitely suggest looking into getting some lamps, some wall lights, or anything just, a little bit more interesting, and that can sort of balance out the scale of where the light is coming from rather than from just overhead. I think lighting is my first tip, and probably one of the most important parts of making your house feel more like a home. The next thing I want to talk about is probably a sensitive topic for some people, but it is injecting color into your home. I know that in Australia, a lot of people are afraid of color in their homes because they think that with color comes permanence, or that they're going to get sick of it, are unable to remove it from their home. But I want to offer a few suggestions in ways that you can incorporate color into your home without that sense of permanence, that is just going to help create a bit of contrast and lift the spaces and create a bit more interest. So my first tip is to add color into your spaces that is temporary. For example, you can just buy a bouquet of flowers, and if color is new to you, put some flowers in your kitchen, on your dining room table, and the reality is they're probably going to be dead within a week. So you can get rid of them if you don't like it, but just experiment and see how it feels having some flowers or, some fruit on your countertop, and see how it feels, how it can quite dramatically change the feeling of a space. So often when I walk into people's homes, the walls are stark and white, everything is beige, everything is a really muted tone, and I feel like it really doesn't take much to just add some small pops of color to sort of liven the space up and make it feel a little bit more like there are people living there. Even as an example behind me, so I rent this apartment and unfortunately we're not allowed to paint the walls, but I still try to add as much color as I can because I've noticed that it makes the space feel much more inviting and like I want to be here rather than walking into just a stark environment. So even just having open shelving that have a few items on there, this is just, I'm in my kitchen. These are just some food products, but you can even see that naturally your eye is probably drawn to those colors or the green from the plant behind me. Another thing I want to suggest is to create contrast in your home. So what I mean by this is when you're considering furniture that you're buying or any objects for the house, consider how you might be able to create some interest with, for example, different textures, patterns, colors, materials. I would say consider incorporating natural materials into your home. It's very easy to buy things, everything that's man-made to some extent. But if you can consider maybe incorporating some timber, which is always something that really warms a space, or even just if it comes to your blinds, bamboo blinds or natural stone in some way. It doesn't have to be a whole slab of natural stone on your kitchen countertop, but even if you just got, you can buy offcuts of natural stone and use them as, cheese boards or display trays that you can put things on. It just adds a point of interest into your home. And I think bringing it back to natural elements always makes the space feel a lot more inviting and a lot more connected to the world around you. Another way of bringing color into your home is having some open shelving like the one that's behind me. Whether that's in your living room, kitchen, bedroom, wherever, and having those things on display that you like to look at. So whether that's some books that you have, some old photographs, some collectibles, people tend to put everything behind closed doors, and I'm definitely all for not having clutter around. I really am someone, I don't like clutter. But in saying that, I think having things around you that make you feel happy or remind you of something from your past or like a fond memory is a really great way of, one, making your space feel more like a home, and two, adding color and interest to the rooms in your house or apartment. So for example, you might have some coffee table books or some little ceramic dishes, things that people have gifted you or that you've collected over the years. Family heirlooms, things like that you want to have out and you don't want to have packed away in a cupboard. I think these things offer interest and character and life to your home, and I can't stress enough how much I think you should do this in your home if it's a little bit stark or it's lacking character or lacking a sense of individuality. Bringing things from your past, putting them on a shelf. It doesn't have to be an expensive shelf. You can literally get one from Bunnings and paint it, or something off Facebook Marketplace. Something really easy to do, but I promise and guarantee you that this is going to make such a big difference to your space. When you're bringing color into your home and you're not really sure about where to start, think about the colors that you are naturally drawn to. So think about the clothes that you wear, or if you're looking at art, what colors are you naturally drawn to? Because they're probably the most likely choices that you're not going to get sick of. You don't have to spend a lot to put color into your home. If you have a neutral colored couch, for example, consider maybe buying a throw or some cushions that have like a print, even just like a subtle color tone in them to break up the beigeness of your sofa or the sort of neutral elements in your home. Adding these things into your home, as I said, it's a temporary thing, so you don't have to spend much, and if you change your mind, you can always sell the item or give them to a friend or family member, or put them in your cupboard until maybe you're a little bit more sure about it. One thing that I find a lot of people do is that when they're moving into a home, they just go out to, IKEA or West Elm, Pottery Barn, and they just want to have the home set up as fast as possible in a week. They know our home is a place that we spend majority of our time, and it's so important to get to know the space, to get to know how you use the space, how the light travels through the space. It's not something that can be rushed, and more often than not, I find when people go out and purchase all the products for their home at once, they end up regretting so many pieces because they weren't considering the space and what they want it to feel like and what they want the overall look of the home to be. And then they're stuck with these couches and dining tables and things that probably cost more than they wanted to spend. they don't like them anymore. So please take your time. And, you know, I understand that often you do need a sofa to sit on or a dining table to sit at. And in the meantime, maybe just buy something cheap off, you know, Facebook Marketplace, or go to Vinnie's, the Salvation Army, and find a table that, you know, you can live with for a few months or a year or whatever, until you're ready to commit to a piece that is going to be long-term and something that you love in your home. I want to also suggest that you try to incorporate objects into your home that are in some way sentimental or have personal meaning to you. A lot of people I know will go into someone's home and try and emulate that person's home in their own. And really, when you walk into someone's home, you want to get a reflection or a sense of who that person is through the furniture and the objects within their space. I think that adding sentimental objects or objects with meaning is such a beautiful way to really show people who you are and how the space is a reflection of yourself. So for example, there might be objects that make you feel comforted or a sense of familiarity, and this is something that you can try and bring into your home so that you can be reminded of your childhood. Think about places you went when you were a child. If you went on holidays, a hotel or a friend's house that you went to that had something that sparked your interest and that for some reason has stuck in your mind, and maybe you want to think about bringing that sort of object into your home. So for example, growing up, I remember on our dining room table, my dad always had a wooden pepper grinder like that one. And you know, it's nothing special, but it always reminds me of him and of dinners as a child growing up. And while it's something so small that I only use for a few seconds every day, it's something that reminds me of my childhood and a time in my life that I like to reflect upon. I had like Spode ceramics, which is probably something that I never would have been drawn to, but it reminds me of my auntie and when we would go to her house and have lunches there. And if you have some vintage photographs of your parents or family members, get them framed and put them on your walls, and I promise you that you will not get sick of them because they are sentimental. They remind you of where you came from. And I know this sounds a little bit corny. When I left school, I traveled to South America, and I have a few little objects that I collected from Peru when I was there, and they have such fond memories attached to them. And I love that every time I look at them, I think of those times, because it's a time that we're never going to get back. And it's really nice to have those pieces around the home that remind us of our story. Maybe you're not into it, but if you want to make your house feel like a home, I feel like these are the things that you can do to incorporate that and to create layers in your home. And it's about layering the old with the new, the found, the collected, and this is just one way to start doing that. The last thing I want to say is don't overstyle your house. I know it can be very easy to get carried away with styling everything so that it looks like a photo shoot, but I find that the houses that I walk into that I resonate with the most are the ones that feel lived in, the ones that I can see people's morning routine, how they use the space. Walk into someone's living room and they've got a newspaper sitting on the coffee table and maybe like a dirty tea mug, which sounds gross, but honestly, these are the things that should be left for people to see. That's what makes a house feel lived in. That's what makes it feel like a home, to know that there's life there, and that I find people's routines and little nuances so interesting. And when you walk into a home where someone has everything perfectly aligned and there's no trace of humanness in the space, I find this is when it feels more like a house or like a staged home, as opposed to a place where someone lives and is able to be themselves. So yeah, these are just some of the tips that I have for how to make your house feel like a home. Hoping to be uploading more videos in the future. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe to my channel, because I would love to get to know you and start a conversation around interiors and, you know, what I do on a daily basis and how I can help you in one way or another. So until the next video, have a very happy new year, and I will see you in 2023.